Good day, and welcome to this presentation from the Department of Student Counselling. So we're going to be looking at everything that you need to know about student counselling. I'm going to start off telling you about who we are, what services we offer, and how you can get in touch with us. Then we're also going to be taking a look in the second half at some of the barriers or potholes to getting mental health services. Some of the thoughts that you might have, some of the stigma around it, and how you can break that stigma to access student counselling services. And then we're also going to be looking at a few tips as to how you can work on your mental health as well. So, who are we at Student Counselling? We consist of a group of staff and we work across a variety of campuses. Some of us are admin staff and we might work in reception or with the various administrative functions of student counselling. We also have social workers, and then we have psychologists who are counsellors who offer therapy services. And we'll get a little bit at some of the social work services and some of the counselling services that we offer. So now that you know a little bit about who we are, let's start with counselling services. So we can break this up into two different parts. Firstly, there's individual counselling and therapy, and that is a confidential one-on-one counselling. So it's you sitting with a psychologist in a private room, or at the moment often online, and you are able to talk to them about some of the challenges that you are facing. And normally it is done with a registered psychologist, but it can also be a social worker. And normally there's about 1 hour per week where you meet with your counsellor. And the number of sessions is really decided on between you and your counsellor. So depending on what you need, sometimes it might be a short-term process, and sometimes it might be quite a bit longer. But the best thing to do is to have the first appointment and discuss with your counsellor, what you are looking for, what you are needing, what your availability is. And this is a space where you are able to talk about anything that you're facing. It might be academic challenges, it might be relationship difficulties, it might be things at home, or any social problems. Stress, anxiety, depression, these are many of the reasons why students come to want to speak to someone. It's also really useful when you can't really talk to a friend about these things. Sometimes friends are really wonderful and helpful, but sometimes it helps to speak to a professional because that professional is, not a part of your life, and so they might be a little bit more objective, they might be a bit more distanced, and so they're able to provide insight that friends don't always have. And they're also someone who's got training, so they can equip you with different skills and tools, and give you, maybe new insights that you wouldn't otherwise have. So apart from individual counselling and therapy, we also have career assessment and counselling, and this is a very specific service when maybe you're not sure what course you want to choose. Perhaps you've been struggling with your course, or you're wanting to change direction, or maybe you are looking to complete your course, but you're wondering, do you want to do some postgraduate studies? Do you want to do a further diploma? What might you want to do? And furthermore, it'll also give you some more information about a future career. And so that is a great place to speak to someone who will be able to advise you on where to begin with making changes or finding out what career you want to get into. And then we also have social work services. So we have a social worker at Student Counselling, and this is a range of services that are offered. And this is someone who often might be working with families or with the university or at a level that's a bit more systemic. So a social worker might want to really look at the different components and tackle some of the social issues that affect students. It might be poverty, it might be peer pressure, it might be domestic or family relations. Many students really struggle with adjusting to student life. Maybe it's a res life, maybe it's making friends, maybe it's just adjusting to not living at home or living in a new city. Responsible drinking is another example that can be a challenge when one is faced with a new environment and different pressures. There are many crises that can face students. These might be financial, these could be just challenges with emotions and social situations. They could be related to grief or losing a family member. And finally, of course, we know that it's really important on campus to tackle gender-based violence. And at CPUT, we really want to take a policy that gender-based violence is not okay. And so we want to support students who might be worried about this or who might, of course, be victims of this or other crimes. So now that you know about a lot of the services that we offer, how can you get in touch? So importantly is online, and this is important not just for getting in touch with us, but specifically for getting access to all of the resources that we spoke about previously. So there's Blackboard, and there you'll find on the Blackboard course tabs, you'll find the Student Counselling one for 2021. Facebook, if you search for CPUT Student Counselling, you'll find our Facebook page and you can follow us, and we often post resources there. You also can take a look at the website, which, although it's updated less often, does have important details about student counselling, which is available there. And then there's our email address. And I'll talk a little bit more about setting up a counselling appointment. But when you want to set up a counselling appointment, that is the most useful email address. And so, although the other places are really useful for finding resources, when you want to actually now take the next step, which might be speaking to someone and getting help from a professional, then you can send an email to the address there. Of course, we also have offices on campus, and when we are available during office hours, and of course at this time with the lockdown, we're not at the offices presently, but that will depend on the university being open. We have offices on District 6 campus, Belleville campus, Mowbray campus, and Wellington campus. And those are all the locations and the numbers for getting in touch with counsellors and staff on those campuses. So now that you know how to get in touch with us, how do you actually begin the student counselling? Well, I suppose the important thing is whether this is going to be online or at the offices. As mentioned, we're currently working online, but this will depend on the lockdown and the university and when we are back in office or not. For the moment, though, online is the most efficient way to get in touch. If you are in a crisis, and this could be a variety of things that might be happening, for example, you might be feeling suicidal, having thoughts about taking your life, about feeling that you can't cope. Or you might have been the victim of a crime or violence against you or abuse, and you might be in a state of crisis, experiencing something like a panic attack could be another example where you need very urgently to speak to someone. Unfortunately, we aren't always able to respond in a crisis, and although we try to get back to you as soon as possible, if you need someone urgently, then it's best to contact the 24/7 helplines, and these are available free of charge by calling those numbers. Of course, if you're not in a crisis, then you can send us an email, and of course, it might be urgent and we'll get back to you very soon, but it might be that you don't need immediate attention, and we'll normally get back to you during office hours. And you need to send some important information, your name, your student number, and it's also helpful to send your preferred platform. So for example, if you are going to be meeting electronically with a counsellor, maybe you want WhatsApp calls, then you can send your WhatsApp number, or maybe you'll prefer to meet on Zoom, and so forth. So those details are really important, and then that'll also speed up the process. At our offices, of course, when we're on campus, you can stop by our offices, and a counsellor will be available. If it's a crisis, again, let us know and then we can see you immediately and we'll be able to help you, maybe making a referral or getting you some immediate help. If it's not a crisis, then we might just have a short meeting just to get a little bit of information about what you are needing, how we can help you. And then a counsellor will then get in touch with you and they'll set up an appointment with you. So, you've taken the first step. You've reached out to student counselling. Now what happens? So, the first step is that your counsellor will contact you. This might be through an email or a message or a call, and they might just get to know you a little bit, get some general information. But you might have questions about what happens, when does this happen, how does it work? Well, really, all that happens is that they'll send you a consent form and you'll complete that before the first session. You'll discuss a time and a date for your first session and also speak about the platform. And then, of course, you meet. And during your first session, it can be a little bit scary, but really, it's like talking to a friend or a family member. You're going to speak maybe about what's brought you to counselling, what you're needing some help with. They might ask some questions, get to know you, and it'll just be a conversation where you're able to talk about how you're feeling, what's been giving you stress, what have been some of the challenges, and the counsellor, as they get to know you, will be able to help you, maybe providing some insights and being able to make some suggestions. So, in the previous slide, we spoke about a crisis situation, and it's really important to be able to know how you should handle a crisis. And there's a few tips here that you can look through. First, just staying calm, taking a few breaths, sitting down, sometimes a warm, comforting drink, some tea, for example, might help, and just getting something comforting like a blanket. And the same applies if you are helping a friend, just getting them to sit down. So once you're feeling calm, make sure that you or your friend are safe. And this might be particularly if you're feeling suicidal, to move away from anything you could use to harm yourself or someone else, to get to a safe place if you're in any immediate danger, and to make sure that you're around people who make you feel safe and comfortable. So you're feeling a bit more calm, you're feeling a bit safer, and now you might be ready to talk. Someone that you trust, like a good friend. And of course, we're available at Student Counselling. And of course, there are the helplines as well if you don't feel that there is anyone that you can reach out to. And just remember that you're not alone. And the next step, of course, is taking action. Sometimes you might get some helpful advice or suggestions. And then you might be able to do some research, get some information, and then make a plan. And what's helpful is okay. So we've spoken about how to get help, but let's talk about some of the challenges. So there are a lot of barriers, or perhaps in South Africa we can think about the potholes to mental health. And these are things that crop up and really make it quite challenging. So one of the biggest potholes to mental health is the stigma. And sometimes this is things that we've learned and we tell ourselves, like, I'm fine, I don't need help. Counseling's for people with serious problems. Counseling's for people who are crazy. That's not me. And of course, there can be things we get told from others. How is talking to a stranger supposed to help? Just get over it. Pull yourself together. We have all heard people saying these kinds of things. So how do we break the stigma? Well, it starts with knowing about what counselling really is. So counseling is ultimately about being supported, getting guidance, being cared for, and it's a safe space, it's a confidential space. Sometimes talking to a stranger can really help because there's someone who's removed from the situation who might be able to provide you with some outside insight. They can provide a reflection, a mirror for seeing yourself through a new set of eyes. And ultimately, it's about building a relationship with someone in the same way that a good friend is someone that you can talk to, a counselor is someone that you can begin to rely on to talk to about what you're facing. And it's for anyone. It can be your first time, you might have done it before and had a good experience or a bad experience. It can be for those who are struggling a huge amount or for those who maybe have just been having a bad month. Whether you think your problems are big or small, it's important that you are able to get help because we all need help at some point. And so by coming to counseling, you can break that stigma. And by telling other people about it, you can break that stigma. So if you're listening to this and it feels like this is where you're at, then I encourage you to take the first step. It does require a lot of bravery, but send that email, make that call, and take the first step. So I wish you all the best in this process, and thank you for your time and learning about the service, and I hope it's provided something really useful for you in terms of finding ways to handle any mental health challenges that you will have and to encourage those around you as well.